What has Excelsior's domain been picking up from toy fairs? Let's have a look. Welcome to my Birmingham NEC pickup video, beginning with the Caped Crusader, Adam West himself, Bruce Wayne. I couldn't help pick this up when I saw it. It just gave me a giggle, basically. He's probably the one Batman that I don't have an example of on my sort of bat shelf. He doesn't come with any shark repellent, unfortunately, but he does come with a snazzy POW stand for your viewing pleasure. So he's by Mattel, I believe, and he's quite well articulated, a nice sort of cape cloth, and he's just a bit of fun. And it's quite funny though, because you know those sort of fins that pop out of Batman's arm in sort of every single sort of modern version of Batman? Apparently they're on his suit too. So I guess they've always been a bat thing, you know? So anyway, I mean, as I say, this was one of my more random pickups. They were probably all pretty random because somehow I failed miserably to find a single example of the Diamond Select Battle of the Planets series I was looking for actively the whole time I was at Birmingham. Didn't see a sausage. So of course what I ended up with was a whole mishmash of other stuff, and I did fulfill one of my sort of goals when I go round toy fairs, which is to pick up something that I've never picked up before, you know, sort of something from a line that I've never picked up before. So he might almost qualify for that, but there are others. There are other examples of that, and chief amongst those, I think, was this perhaps. Now this is only a small example, of course, but this is a condor from M.A.S.K, and I literally, to my knowledge, never had a single M.A.S.K toy growing up. I liked the cartoon. I like the idea that they all had masks that did different things. His is hocus pocus, so he can create holograms of whatever he's thinking about, which could be unfortunate, but that's his thing. I think he's called, he's called Dave Turner or something like that. That's quite a normal sounding name, but his mask is hocus pocus. And he drives this motorbike that converts into a little sort of gyrocopter kind of idea. And I remember that he was in a lot of the sort of the cartoon episodes. So he's a nice little figure. I believe this one is complete as far as I know. It's got the visor here, and I've seen another video where someone picked one up that was missing the visor. And it's got a little sort of a M.A.S.K emblem. So I think that when you pull that up, you get landing skis for the helicopter, and then you sort of pop the blades out and so on. But I haven't actually played with it enough yet to know exactly what you do. But it's got the little M.A.S.K emblem down the back there, so you can see the idea that the vehicles have two play modes basically, and I don't think you always get the figures with them at all. But I picked up Condor with him, so I was quite happy with that as a you know, to have an example of a decent condition M.A.S.K toy. So that was one tick completed off my list, because I've never quite managed to get round to that somehow. What else did I get? Well, quite early doors, I bumped into a stand which, unfortunately for my pocket, had this chap. And as you might recall, I've recently been gifted a Gypsy Danger, so I knew immediately what range this guy was from. And this, of course, is Crimson Typhoon, who was one of the Jaegers involved in the bust-up at the docks. Although he didn't actually get anywhere near the docks because he got taken out in the water. But he's cool. He's got 3 arms. He's a 3-armed Jaeger. So I'm quite sure that I will be unboxing him, because I've inadvertently now collected a few other examples which would go towards making up a rather excellent Pacific Rim mini collection. So you can see you might be able to see it anyway, there's Gypsy Danger there on the back, Crimson Typhoon and Knifehead there. So that was nice, and just to be able to sort of pick them all up at the same time was great, because you probably wouldn't necessarily be able to get these all at the same time. I mean, this is a completely new line to me, so I haven't gone hunting for them particularly at all. But I just felt it was sort of kismet that I saw this guy when I literally just been given the Gypsy Danger from the same range. So I thought, yeah, that'd be rude not to, basically. Now, as I mentioned, he was not the only one that I picked up, because I also managed to get Striker Eureka, which is apparently a second deployment. And he is probably the most advanced Jaeger that we see in the film, because it's the youngest one. So it's probably one of the last off the production lines when they were still doing Jaegers rather than trying to build this wall that was their alternate defensive line, which was a bit rubbish, quite frankly. So, you know, again, really nice to see this one, and again, I will unbox this in due course. But just really, really great looking mech, very sort of quick in the film, but ironically, he gets EMP'd so quickly that we don't see a huge amount of him overall. But you know, he does play a very, very important role ultimately. So this is a nice box, because we get the listings here for even more of them. So we've got a Gypsy Danger, which I have, Crimson Typhoon, which I now have, Strike Eureka, which is him, Battle Damage Gypsy Danger, haven't seen that one anywhere yet, Coyote Tango, and Cherno Alpha. Now, as luck would have it, I also picked up Coyote Tango, and he's loose. So I don't have to have any guilt about unpacking him, because he's already here. And he is, of course, very, very cool. We see him for about, I don't know, all of 15 seconds, and really just Idris Elba poking his head out the top of his cockpit, and that's about it. we see very, very little of him, because he's seen in flashback from a small girl's perspective. So, nonetheless, they clearly fully designed him, because he does look very, very cool there. So very, very happy to have picked him up at the same time, and because he was loose, he was pretty cheap. So in fact, none of those were, even being boxed, none of them were horrifyingly expensive, which was great, because I'd only just started at that point. So that was just as well, really, given the you know, the length of the day. So it came away with him. So that was three Jaegers straight out of the bag, which was not something I'd anticipated doing, but I couldn't say no, because they are really, really well done figures, and that was just, you know, that was just a thing. And of course, it wouldn't have been fair if I hadn't evened things out a bit and given the kaijus a bit of a chance. So yes, I found a knife head, again loose, and so again very reasonable. So awesome, another awesome figure. Now, Joe the Spectrum Flipper was with me around about this time briefly, and he knows a lot about his Jaegers and his kaijus, and he was telling me that this probably isn't the right scale to go with the Jaegers that I've actually got. So I think there is a large one, and I did see a larger one later. In fact, he may even have mentioned that one to me. But nonetheless, I do like this one. I think the markings and stuff on him are great. And he stands up really well, with a rather clever use of a tail there. So I'm quite happy to have him. I don't think he's not horrendously out of scale with my Jaegers. But, you know, again, this is a route I've not particularly gone down, so I probably need to do some of my own research and just sort of try and understand what this range actually looks like as a whole. But that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So I got four Pacific Rim items in the first not very long, because that was quite early doors. So it was with some trepidation that I carried on around the rest of the fair. Now, in terms of the order in which I picked things up, well, actually, I picked up Condor towards the end. There's a very nice guy on this stall, and he explained that he wasn't really sort of in business as such, but he just sort of, he'd started selling his own collection, and then just kind of morphed and he carried on selling. But I also picked up this little chap from his emporium as well. Now, this is not a massively well-known Zoid, I don't think. He did appear in the comics, and he's called Zor, because he's a little tiny version of Gore. who is a great big monkey Zoid. Zoid, as you can probably see, because given the amount I've had to zoom in on him, he's not a huge Zoid. He's one of the sort of the smaller Zoids that you would pick up in a little small cardboard box. But he was made up like this, so he was, he seems to be pretty complete. Curiously, they've given him a red Zoid cockpit, which is a really odd move because he's a blue Zoid, so he's supposed to be one of the good guys. Now, as to whether or not he actually works, I don't know. I haven't wound him up yet. But I just like the fact that they gave kids who didn't have a huge budget the opportunity to own a sort of a mini version of one of the larger, sort of really sort of impressive looking, Megazoids kind of thing. And they did that for a few of them. So there was Krark, the Prince of Darkness, I think he was called officially. There was also a Zark that you could get, and the Zark was like a mini Krark, and so you had Zoidzilla, but you also had Trooper Zoids or Zillans, and so Toei were quite fair in that sense that if you couldn't afford the really big ones, you could still pick up ones that looked similar. So yeah, he was just a cute kind of little guy. I don't have an example of him already, which is why I picked him up. So got a little bit of a deal on him. Possibly overpaid a smidgen for the M.A.S.K, but that's kind of balanced. And some people I sort of haggled with. Some people I got so tired by the end I just kind of forgot to haggle. So I got some. I think I got some good deals though, and all was said and done along the way. Some perhaps less so. However, this didn't cost me much. And the thing that amuses me about this is. This hasn't appeared on Trek Toys because I've never seen them before in just sort of out and about. But I thought that as I've covered them relatively recently, I would pick this up. And as you can see at the time, it started off at $6, I think it's $6.99 at BT's, and they dropped it to $5, and it ended up on sale for $2. So presumably they couldn't shift the Strike Force minifigures from the Warp Factor series by Playmates. They just struggled basically, but of the ones available I thought I'll just pick up some Borg because it'd be rude not to have a little bit of a hive mind sort of going on there. What's the word I'm looking for? A collective, that's the one. A collective, yes. So I've now got a little collective of Borg, and of course I do have a Borg head as well, which would fit these figures. So that's quite a nice little sort of bundle that someone's accidentally created there by virtue of picking this one up. But it's just one of those things. It's just a little bit of fun, isn't it? So what other utter randomness did I pick up? Well, lots and lots of little bits of randomness. Perhaps not least of which was this. Now, I can't quite tell you what made me go for this. This is a Panini Transformers sticker album that is complete. And it's got all the sort of, this is based on the cartoon series. So all the stickers in here are absolutely bang out of my childhood Transformers days. I've got no idea if the right stickers are in the right place or any of that sort of good stuff. But just looking at it, I remember so clearly picking up packs of these things at the local newsagents, trying to put together things like these sort of, sort of 6-piece sticker collections of the Dinobots and looking for these silver foily sort of ones and just, all of that good stuff. It's brilliant. It's just brilliant. That was a real nostalgia hit for me, that. And it was one of those things that I was not looking for at all, but felt compelled to grab, because when would you see it again, potentially, Maybe some people specialise in that sort of thing. I don't know. I've no idea. But I just thought that was a nice thing to find. Similarly, let's stick with the... let's stick with the Transformers theme. Let's stick with the Transformers theme. I didn't actually pick up any actual Transformers, although I did half think about it. But I did pick up this. And to my amusement, the gentleman who ran the stall wasn't actually there when I picked this up. So his wife gave me a price on this, and the gentleman looked a bit pale when she told him what she charged me, but he did stick to it. So this should be a complete Salter's jigsaw of a very classic image that you used to see on the back of the Transformers boxes back in the day. Completely random, again, completely random pickup. It just caught my eye. I just thought, I'm a bit tickled by that. I'm going to go for that. Thomas Salter jigsaw, 150 pieces. And you know, I might do one of the things whereby I sort of make it up and then kind of stick it all together. There's nothing on the back, it's just plain cardboard. But it does look to be, it looks to be pretty complete. There's definitely a lot of pieces in there. So, listen. There's a nice noise. Okay, so again, completely random pickup. No idea why I did that. Just clearly in that sort of old school G1 Transformers sort of way of thinking, I guess, at the time. What else can I show you? What else? Well, again, this just caught my eye. I have absolutely no idea why I picked it up. I definitely paid too much for it. However, I haven't seen it before. And what piqued my interest about this was, A, it was very bright and colourful, but it's the Star Wars annual featuring the Ewoks. And it's the animated Ewoks, which that can't have been a thing for very long at all. And I've just never ever seen this cover before. So it's kind of, well, you know, when would I see one again? I mean, I'm sure that if I went on eBay right now, I could probably find it, but I wouldn't know that it existed. So it's got the price tag sort of cut off, but already that's quite nice imagery, you know? And of course it's got, you know, proper Star Wars comic storylines in it as well. And I always rather like these as well, because they're often better than you might think they would be. I mean, I've seen them in Zoids. They appeared in the Spider-Man and Zoids comic as well. They reprinted some of them, because this is just sort of quite early sort of 80s continuation of Star Wars, basically. So there's the actual Ewok strips there towards the front. So it's just sort of, again, random little pickup. And this is the great thing that I find about toy fairs is you don't naturally come across this stuff very often unless you happen to hit on the right sort of store which deals with the right sort of stuff from the right sort of time for your particular period of nostalgia. You know, it can be that random. So let's bounce from one 80s show to another 80s show. Now, I have to admit, I kind of got this from me, but kind of not, because I was thinking of someone else when I saw it and picked it up. Look at this. It's an Airwolf wrist copter, and it's more or less in its original packaging, with a teeny tiny little Airwolf that doesn't look very much like Airwolf in it. But I do like the Airwolf symbol on the wrist copter sort of strap, but it is missing its sort of pull-out tie that makes the copter whiz off. Although I suspect you could probably replace that in some way, shape or form if you wanted to give it a go. But I just thought that was it appears to be a genuine piece of merchandise, because the Airwolf logo and the Airwolf wording there looks sort of spot on. It's by Rainbow Toys, copyright 1984, I think, Universal City Studios. So it all looks very sort of kosher, and it's made in Hong Kong. Absolutely nothing on the back of it whatsoever. So that is literally the sum total of the marketing for that particular thing. But I bet you don't see many of them though, because obviously this is kind of a total newsagents selling sort of thing. So again, just a completely random pickup. But that's the fun, isn't it? It was just a fun thing to grab. Now, also from that same stall, I got these guys. Now, I don't know if he goofed here, because he told me how much he wanted for these, and I kept a straight face because I thought that seemed deeply unlikely. But maybe he just never been able to shift them, maybe they're incomplete, I don't know. But check these guys out. Now again, this is not a series. I mean, I don't even know if this is from the 93 series, or strangely what I've now discovered is there's a reboot, but Biker Mice from Mars. Now, as I understand it, the first series of this show came out in 1993. Now, that puts it really outside of my toy and even sort of cartoon watching days originally, but I knew of them. I've heard of them, you know, so maybe they were such a craze when they came out originally that I was sort of aware of them. But this guy was just sat right on the top. It actually appears very briefly in my NEC video, so you do see it in there. And I just thought, that's just cool. He's got a helmet, he's got his tail is intact. He seems to be able to hold onto the bike pretty well, and it's the figure and the bike. But then it wasn't just him. I think one of them is called Chopper, inventively enough. I can't remember what the others were called. But then he also gave me this. And this guy was right next to him. And I was just like, well, what? But how much is, what? Now, I'm looking at it now and I'm not actually convinced that this is, I think it is, I think they are both biker mice from Mars. But this guy's got a sort of big kind of trike. And yeah, I mean, he's got the right symbol on his belt as well, but he's got like a robotic arm, which is cool. And yeah, there's his tail at the back there. There it is. Okay. So I've got a pair of these. I've got a pair of the bikes and a pair of the figures. And apparently I've just seen the price tags on both of these guys. I've got them for like half price. So I have no idea why, because they seem pretty complete to me. Maybe they're missing some weapons, but they've both got helmets. They've both got their tails in one piece, and they've got bikes. I mean, as a display piece, I just thought that was a great display piece. Because you know, I don't know how, I'm guessing these are fairly common to find. And I'm sure they'd be infinitely more expensive if they were in boxes. But I just thought they were fun, you know? They got cool bikes. It's like the mice on bikes. And it's like, yeah, I like that. That's fun. That's just fun. I like it. So I picked those up with an Airwolf wrist copter, because obviously that's what you do at these places. So fine. I might have been slightly delirious at this point, because I had been on my feet for a number of hours at this point, but you know, I just thought they were cool. And I don't think I think I'd certainly seen the figures before. I'm not sure I'd ever seen the bikes before. So I just thought those were a nice pair to pick up together like that. And he didn't really even suggest that they would go separately. He just gave me both of them. So I was like, okay. Okay, so. Brief slurp there. Okay. What else did I get? Because I ain't done yet. Because it was one of those sorts of days. You know, I was hunting, as I say, you know, the thing I was hunting for I couldn't find. So I started picking up stuff that I'd always meant to pick up in the past but hadn't before. Like, for example, an example of Exo Squad. Now, you might remember that a while back I did a video on Robotech, Harmony Gold, all the sort of, you know, crossover with them and Battletech and who owned what and why and so on. And this is an Excalibur Mark 6 Battloid, which is also a Warhammer from Battletech. And it's also, you also see them in the Robotech animated series as well. And this Exo Squad does announce itself as being part of the Robotech family because it's from Harmony Gold, but it's also got Playmates associated with it as well, because Playmates produce some of the toys for them. So this is what's called an E-frame. It's a 3-inch attack mecha, and it's got various stickers for it in the back there as well. I am kind of tempted to uncard this, but what I actually really liked about this was this very sort of bright back that it's got, but it also lists out all the other ones that you can get as well. And I think I've got that Excalibur, or certainly one in those colours, not at this scale, but one very, very similar to that. So I did pick up one of those at one point. But all of those, well, I think some of them are very much ones that I kind of recognise as being Mech Warrior-y sort of Battletech ones. So I can't remember why I didn't pick one up in the past, but possibly because I couldn't get this one, or I just felt they were a bit pricey on eBay. But this was not pricey at all, so I thought, yeah, pull the trigger. And the gentleman did seem to think that this white variant was a little bit more unusual to find than some others. So, you know, I'd have to do some research on that. But again, just a nice little example of a nice mech. I picked up a few Trek items along the way, but I won't bother showing you those because they will obviously inevitably show up on a Trek Toys video in due course, so that's fine. And now, this one really brings back some... I can't even explain why this brings back memories for me, because I don't think I actually owned it. But this is... and I showed this one briefly in the video, but didn't suggest that I was picking it up. It's a little spaceship that announces itself as a Fisher-Price spaceship on it. And I remember, I think it may have been a friend that had this when I was little. And I always remember thinking it was a really cool little space fighter because the figure just sits in there and just pops out. And I'm fairly sure that the Fisher-Price Alpha probe that I have, big white shuttle, I think this might fit inside it, or there is another one very similar to this that fits inside it. So this guy just sort of pops out, and there was probably another figure that would fit in here as well. I think there was a sort of, you know, a good guy kind of astronaut figure who would fit in here as well. So. Just one of those really sort of flashbacky toys for me. It's very plastic. There's nothing particularly clever about it. It just happens to be Fisher-Price. This is from 1979. Apparently it's a division of the Quaker Oats company or something, made in the USA. In fact, I'm not sure if it is 79 or even earlier than that, but it's certainly bang out of my childhood. And this one also comes with the often missing hose attachment. So you can attach that to the, in fact I can probably show you now, you attach that to the ship, and then you attach the back of the hose to him, and lo and behold, he is spacewalking in space, ladies and gentlemen. There he is, look. So isn't that a really, really simple but very, very clever little idea? So you can actually do spacewalks just with the accessories that are built in. So I think that's a lovely, simple idea for a toy. Great imagination play value there, I think. But I've no idea whether that just got sold separately or it's part of the Alpha Pro pack or what. I think the Alpha Pro version of it was maybe orange. I'm gonna have to do some research on that because it's odd. It's one of those ships that's incredibly cheap to get, but it's a huge hunk of white plastic. But there are lots of other bits that probably came with it which you never get with it. So it's something I might have to look into in the future. But again, just one of those things that, because it wasn't boxed, it wasn't expensive, or at least not ridiculously so. So I had to kind of pick it up. I'm still going. My lights are dying, but I'm still going. Picked up a little bit of Capsella, and again, this is something I've looked at before. This is bang out of my childhood. Capsella, classic construction toy. Very plastic, but it comes with motors so you can power them. But I'd never seen this little guy before, and it's like a little robot guy. So I think this must be a slightly later version of Capsella compared to what I was used to when I was growing up. Because the stuff that I got was all sort of big, sort of spherical floats and things like that. So you could put it on water and have a propeller spinning to sort of push it on water and so on. It was great. But these little bits, these central bits, are definitely the sort of bits that I had. So basically you just get lots of, variations on a theme basically that you can create different stuff out of. You make little cars, make whatever you want out of it. It's great. But it's very much of its time. Although I think it did carry on for quite a while, Capsella, probably longer than I realised. And in fact, this is referring to key stages 1, 2 and 3. So I actually think this is probably the modern version of Capsella, because the key stages weren't a thing back in my day. So this is probably actually the reinvented Capsella, which is probably why it looks generally more modern than perhaps I'm used to. But I will do another video on Capsella at some point because I've still got a few other boxes of Capsella left. Now here's one from Martin, because Martin asked me if I could get or was after a starfighter the other day, and I got him a full-size one. But Martin, I have now managed to find you, sir, a small Corgi Junior scale one, which I think is the one you remember. I'm sorry it doesn't have a sticker, but that was the only one I saw all day, and it was, trust me, that was the best of the bunch. So there you go. So I picked that up for you, sir. Enjoy. Now, I'm nearly there now, honest, nearly there-ish. Got a couple of these from the my Jaeger purveyor, and these, of course, are Battle Beasts. And I'm doing quite well with these. I'm very sort of mildly, can you mildly collect something? I'm mildly collecting Battle Beasts again. I'm pretty sure I had these two originally. I don't know what their official names are, but one's probably sort of Batty Bat and the other guy is sort of Voluptuous Vulture. I don't know. But basically they've both got wings, and I said, can I have the two with wings, please? And he sort of looked at me and went, yes. So, but they both come with their weapons. They're handheld weapons. They always have sort of weapons kind of built into them in some respect, but these guys have actually got their actual weapons, which I'm assuming, given that he was a vendor of repute, are the correct weapons for the correct battle beasts. And they also have their little rubs, which tell you if they're wood, fire, water, and so on. I haven't actually tried them in anger yet, but I will certainly have a look at them. So I will do a little bit of a wash-up video on the ones that I have to date. I mean, I've literally only got, I've got 5. that's about it. And even those aren't completely complete, but the ones I do have weapons. So, you know, it's a reasonable kind of collection. And I did speak to a guy, you probably heard him mention on the NEC video, that he's got basically all of them bar one at this point, and he seemed to imply that that included the laser beasts, and that would be a heck of a collection because those laser beasts are not cheap. These were very reasonable. These actually got a deal for them because I bought 2 at the same time, so quite happy with that, with the weapons as well. Just fun little figures. And somebody was saying to me, I had a chat to somebody about them, and there's just something about the detailing on Battle Beasts that, you know, there's hardly anything to them play value wise, and very little articulation, but they just have a certain something about them. And they could fit in your pocket, and you couldn't destroy them in your pocket either. So I used to take them into school all the time because I could get away with that, you know. They weren't big clunky things, I could get away with it. Now then, I've had an example of this before. Before I had an example of the big bad. This, although he isn't a big bad in any way, shape or form, he's still not a very, very nice chap. But this is Grifter from the WildC.A.T.s. And I was gobsmacked because I've never seen these in the wild before either, apart from the one that I got off eBay. But there are 3 on this table, and again in the video you'll see that there's a point in the video where I tended to film after I'd bought from someone. So there's a sort of hole on his table display where this guy's missing, and there's another one on either side. But this one, him I will get out, because I just think I want to have a look at the figure, you know, in anger sort of thing, and just see what they're like. I don't think they're very heavily articulated, because we're talking probably sort of mid-ish 90s. They are Playmates figures though, so they might be articulated. They might do more than I think they do, but I just haven't had one out to actually properly look at. So I am going to get it out in due course. But I just thought, you know, I don't often get action figures as such, nor am I sort of aiming to collect all of these. But I just think they're nice, and I know that Wildstorm were quite keen on trying to sort of merchandise their comics before they got absorbed into, I think, DC primarily. So it's just something of interest to have a look at, basically. Yeah, they're WildC.A.T.s Covert Action Teams. I don't know what the CATS stands for, but yeah, it's cool. It's strange as well, because I've also got an example of the drummer, but he's from the Authority, but it's the same sort of universe. But anyway, so yeah, so that's cool, and it's nice to get figures that aren't sort of Marvel or DC as well. Now then, what is left? What is left? Well, what is left indeed? Oh yes, okay. So one other figure actually. Now I don't know why I keep doing this, because again I've got this tiny little Bucky O'Hare collection, and I believe this is another Bucky O'Hare character. This guy's a villain. I don't have any villains yet, so I picked him up. I don't even know what his name is. I've literally done that much research. The weird thing was, after I picked him up, I kept on seeing him in the fair. It's one of those things, isn't it? I think when your brain sees something, goes into your short-term memory, and then you keep picking it out from the crowd. But he had, he wasn't expensive, and he got a reasonable sort of gun. I have no idea if it's a repro of his gun, because I did see his gun in a different colour in a card with him in it, so I'm not quite sure why that was the case, unless there simply were just variants of him, you know. But anyway, as I say, kind of a fun, sort of big, clunky, chunky, quite nicely detailed kind of figure. Just a bit of fun to grab him and add him to this slightly random collection. Oh, his head moves as well, look, that's nice. And his arms move, so yeah, it's all good. Right, now then, I've come to the end of the more obvious pickups, but this one I have, in normal tradition, saved the best till last, because I had hoped to see one of these at some point, given that this was a really, really big toy fair, and you will not see one of these very often. This is a monster truck from Jace and the Wheeled Warriors. It's a monster vine, or possibly a monster mind, actually. I could never quite decide what they were calling themselves. These are very, very uncommon to find in this country. I've only seen them in the flesh once before at Leicester Vintage, and that was it. So this is from Jace and the Wheeled Warriors, and the cartoon was very much designed to promote the toys, but I think it came after the toys were released, so it didn't really sort of tie into the toys. Well, it didn't tie into the toys as well as you might think, but it was a series that JMS of Babylon 5 fame, and people know I have a bit of a JMS thing going on, but he helped to create this, so he was the writer on Jace and the Wheeled Warriors. And these guys are basically plant truck hybrids in this particular form anyway. And they're very, very chromy. I like the chrome, they're very, very sort of bright, but you just don't see them. And there was this one left on this guy's stall. So it's not one of the big bads, it's not Sawboss, it's not one of the Lightning League, but I can now say that I have an example of one of those cartoons that is on sfxb.co.uk. It's one of my 80s nostalgia pages, and one of my little sort of sub-aims has always been to get an example from everything that's on the 80s shows that I put on SFXB. And these, I didn't even know existed until relatively recently. So to have been able to find one was definitely a bit of a Grail find for me on this day, when I couldn't find other things that I was hunting for. Now, I don't know if this is complete. I've just noticed there is a notch there, but that might just be so you can move weapons around, because one of the ideas of this series was that you did get modular weapons, and you would probably be able to swap them between different examples of the various things. It's got a lot of suspension to it. I'm pretty sure that's intentionally wobbly. So it's cool. So there's no one driving it, because it drives itself, because it's sentient. So that's also completely normal for the monster minds. So, you know, and you can probably see he's got a bit of a sort of a face and a jaw thing going on the front of him there, because it's, you know, he's intended to be a menacing baddie basically. So it was a fun series on, I think, very early in the mornings on Channel 4. And I sort of, you know, I did try and catch it pretty religiously, and it never really resolved itself, unfortunately, because it did get cancelled after, I think, probably 1 year or however many episodes. But nevertheless, it was fun. It was a fun show, and I think everyone who remembers it very, very fondly. And I'm just really happy that I managed to come across this before someone else snaffled it, because as I've said, you know, these do not come up very frequently at all. And I had no idea how much you'd pay for a carded one. I mean, the mind boggles. But I think you can find them more easily in France. But again, the gentleman who I bought it from wasn't really sure whether or not they'd really been sold all that widely, full stop. So, you know, you may know more about this than I do, and please let me know in the comments if you do. And I'm going to call a halt there, because it's quite late. I probably shouldn't have started this late, but I wanted to put it out in my usual Thursday slot, so I decided that I would make the effort for you to share the goodies, and I dare say I will return to them in various forms at a later date. And as I say, I haven't shown you the Trek ones, and I haven't yet shown you, but I will show you on Monday in the Trek Toys segment, the ridiculous haul that I picked up before I even reached the NEC on the Sunday. Because on the Saturday, I went a slightly circuitous route to get to my hotel on the Saturday night, because I had to pick up this haul from eBay, which was fascinating, shall we say. You will see. So all will be revealed on Monday on that front. And I will leave you there for now, because I need to recharge everything. So I hope you've enjoyed that run through my pickups. Let me know what you picked up. Lots of interesting NEC videos around, so have a search around for them. And I will see you or not, depending on Easter Monday, but there will be a video out then. Cheers for now.